Kwame Kilpatrick.
And James Thomas as well.
Okay. It's my understanding that there's been a resolution of this matter also. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor. We have filed with the court a settlement offer and notice of acceptance, which sets forth the agreement that we've reached with the defense in this case. And if the court please, I'll put that on the record.
That's fine. Do we have a copy of that plea?
Yes.
The original? Thank you. All right. Mr. Baker, go ahead.
Yes. Your Honor, we've reached the following agreement that the defendant will plead no contest as charged to count 1 in our information, and that we will dismiss count 2 at the time of sentencing. Also, that the defendant agrees to resign as mayor of the city of Detroit and tender a letter of resignation at the time of this plea, and that the resignation will be effective no later than 9/18/08. That's 2 weeks from today. We also agree to a 120 days in jail, and that will be served concurrent with the jail sentence in file 08-10496. Also, a probationary term, and the terms and conditions of the probation to be set by the court. And I believe that concludes our agreement.
All right. Mr. Mateo?
Mr. Baker has accurately set forth the settlement offer, and we have executed the settlement offer and notice of acceptance form that's before the court.
All right. We probably should swear the defendant in again because it's a separate matter. So,
yes.
Madam Clerk?
Raise your right hand, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give in the matter now pending before the court will be the whole truth and help you God.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Since this is a separate record, obviously, it's a separate case. We're going to have to go through this again, and I hope you understand why we have to do that. Okay. Your name, please?
Kwame Malik Kilpatrick.
Your age, sir?
38 years old.
Mr. Kilpatrick, you are charged in an information on case number 08-10777 with 2 counts, both the same: public officer assaulting or obstructing. And there's been a plea negotiations. In this matter, you're going to be pleading guilty to count 1.
No contest.
Excuse me, pleading no contest. And there's no objection from the people. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And no contest plea will still be a conviction, but you won't make a factual basis. You understand that, sir?
Yes, sir.
Any question about what a no contest plea is?
Not at all.
There's been a sentence agreement. Is this an agreement? You said it was a sentence agreement, correct?
Yes.
It's not checked off the box. Do you want me to check that off?
Yes, it's an agreement.
Mr. Mateo, you agree it's a sentence agreement?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
I'll check that box off. The sentence agreement has been laid out by Mr. Baker. You want me to go through it again?
No.
Mr. Kilpatrick, you're aware of everything he said?
Yes.
You're fully in agreement with it, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Mateo, you've gone over that with your client. Everything that Mr. Baker said, you're fully in agreement with it, correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
All right. And Mr. Kilpatrick, you understand that by pleading no contest, as I stated earlier, you will be convicted of this offense of assaulting or obstructing a public officer. Count 1, count 2 will be dismissed, correct?
Yes.
And by doing so, you're giving up certain constitutional rights. One is the right to be tried by a jury. You understand that, sir?
Yes.
Also the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. You understand that, sir?
Yes.
Also the right to have the prosecutor prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant is guilty. You understand that, sir?
Yes.
You're also giving up the right to have the witnesses against you appear at your trial. You understand that, sir?
Yes.
And also to question the witnesses against you through your lawyer by what we call cross-examination of witnesses. You understand that, sir?
Yes, I do.
You're giving up your right to have the court order any witnesses to come to the court and testify for you if you had any witnesses. You understand that, sir?
I do.
Also the right to remain silent during your trial and not have that silence used against you if you chose that. You understand that, sir?
I do.
And finally, the right to testify if you wanted to testify. You understand that, sir?
Yes.
If your plea is accepted, you're going to give up any claim that the plea was the result of any promises or threats that were not disclosed to the court at this plea proceeding, or that it was not your own choice to plead guilty. You understand that, sir?
I do.
And finally, sir, if your plea is accepted, any appeal from your conviction and sentence pursuant to this plea will be by application for leave to appeal and not by right. You understand what that means, sir?
I do.
Mr. Baker, are you satisfied that the court's complied with the court rules in giving the defendant his rights?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Mateo, do you agree?
Yes, Your Honor.
As far as a factual basis, Mr. Baker,
Your Honor, we would certainly incorporate by reference the preliminary exam testimony, but I would like to state on the record those portions of the preliminary exam testimony that I think would support a no contest plea.
all right. Have you gone over what you're going to say with Mr. Mateo?
Yes.
All right.
That's correct, Your
Go
Honor.
ahead, Mr. Baker.
The preliminary exam was before Judge Giles on 8/15/08, and the testimony of Brian White was that on July 24th, 2008, he and Joanne Kinney went to 7435 LaSalle, which was the defendant's sister's home, to serve a subpoena in file 08-10496, the other case, that Brian White testified that he's a certified police officer and is a deputy sheriff assigned to the prosecutor's office, and that Joanne Kinney was working at that time as an investigator for the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. Brian White further testified that he is known to the defendant and, in fact, is the officer in charge of file 08-10496 and, in fact, participated in the booking of the defendant in that case. The testimony was when they arrived at the LaSalle location, they went to the door to serve the subpoena. Daniel Ferguson answered the door, and in the process of determining the whereabouts of Bobby Ferguson, whom the subpoena was for, the defendant emerged. He used profanity and told Ferguson, Daniel Ferguson, not to tell the officers anything, came out onto the porch, still using profanity, and shoved Brian White into Joanne Kinney, ordered them off the premises, and ordered his executive protection unit officers to remove them from the premises, and that they left, that the two complainants left at that point.
Mr. Mateo, are you satisfied with the factual basis that's been recited by Mr. Baker?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
And Mr. Baker, obviously you're satisfied with that, correct?
Yes.
Well, the court is satisfied, and the court is going to accept the plea as to count one, assaulting or obstructing a public officer, and we'll set sentence date in this matter. Yes, Mr.
Just
Baker.
one other thing, I would like the basis for the no contest plea to be stated for the record.
Civil liability, Your Honor. We've agreed in previous discussions that would be a legal basis.
Chambers, and I inquired of that.
Right.
I think that was the reason stated. You had no objection. Is that correct, Mr.
no
Baker?
objection.
And I think you're right. There should be something stated on the record.
Yes.
I agree that there could be a civil lawsuit in regards to this case. I think that a no contest plea would be appropriate, and hearing no objection from the people for any reason, the court will allow the no contest plea. So again, the court will accept the plea, is satisfied with the factual basis and the giving of the defendant his rights. We'll set sentence date for 10/28 at 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock. And before we conclude the record, is there anything else that you want to say on the record, Mr. Baker or Mr. Mateo?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Right. The court would just, while most of the lawyers are still here, I know Prosecutor Worthy is here and some of her team, I would just, and all the defense lawyers, I would just commend all the lawyers involved on both sides in this case. I know it must have been a very, very difficult and complicated process to get to this where we are today. So I would commend all parties for resolving this matter today. It obviously was something that everyone could agree upon, and I think that it is going to be something that was worked on very hard, but we do commend everyone for being able to resolve it, because